What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this one, we have how strong is Australia's military really? Before we jump in and find out, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and let's dive right in.
Australia, the land of kangaroos, deadly spiders, scorching deserts, and the eternal mystery of how anyone survives with everything trying to kill them. But when it comes to military power, is Australia as fearsome as its wildlife? Or is the land down under punching below its weight on the world stage? Despite its vast landmass, economic prosperity, and geostrategic location in the Asia-Pacific region, Australia's military has been navigating a series of hurdles. While it's a close ally of the United States and seen as a regional pillar of stability, its actual military capabilities reveal notable limitations. The Australian Defence Force, ADF, is indeed professional, disciplined, and equipped with modern tools, but compared to rising regional powers, it's far from being a military heavyweight. Chronic issues like limited personnel numbers, sluggish modernization, procurement headaches, and a heavy dependence on strategic partners have all combined to keep Australia's military potential somewhat underwhelming.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like because of the alliances that Australia has, they don't necessarily have to spend a crap ton of their GDP on the military, on defense spending. Because they do have alliances with you got the AUKUS, you got Australia, UK, US. I think Australia's in the Quad. I'm not sure. Australia could be in other things. But nowadays, US seeming a little less dependable to its allies and when it comes to defense. So Australia might have to start bolstering and strengthening that army, that military.
At the heart of the ADF's strength lies its highly trained all-volunteer force. Australia maintains roughly 60,000 active duty personnel and another 30,000 reservists. For a nation of its size and given its geographic and strategic responsibilities, these numbers are on the smaller side. Yet, the quality of training and interoperability with Western forces, especially those of the United States and the United Kingdom, helps offset some of this numerical disadvantage. Aussie soldiers have long held a reputation for grit, versatility, and a no-nonsense approach to combat operations. They've served effectively in numerous conflicts, from World War I to Afghanistan. But a strong reputation doesn't fill recruitment quotas, and today, manpower remains a key vulnerability. On the equipment front, Australia has committed to major upgrades in all branches of its armed forces. The Royal Australian Navy has embarked on an ambitious modernization program, including plans to significantly expand its submarine fleet and acquire new surface combatants. The Air Force boasts advanced jets like the F-35 Lightning II and FA-18F Super Hornets, while the Army is rolling out next-generation armored vehicles such as the Boxer Combat Reconnaissance Vehicle. On paper, this sounds like a recipe for a formidable force. However, the reality is more complicated. Many of these programs have been riddled with delays, ballooning budgets, and limited domestic defense manufacturing capabilities. The most notorious example is the submarine saga. Originally a multi-billion-dollar deal with France for conventional subs, scrapped in favor of nuclear-powered submarines under the AUKUS Pact. The switch triggered...
I feel like a lot of Australians got very upset about the amount of money they were spending on those U.S. subs. Felt like they got cheated in this deal, which is completely understandable. But it's nice to know that they are modernizing like all levels of the military or all branches of the military, and they are getting all these things in. But it sounds like a lot of these things are coming with delays or are over budget or things that they're struggling with. And then I would love to ask you guys, what do you think the military could do to improve recruitment numbers? Love to hear your opinion on that.
diplomatic tensions, and while the nuclear subs promise greater capability in the long term, the timeline is so distant that Australia could find itself with a submarine gap in the meantime, not ideal in a region brimming with underwater threats. This brings us to Australia's alliances, a vital pillar of its defense strategy. Australia is deeply embedded in some of the world's most powerful defense arrangements. AUKUS aims to equip Australia with nuclear-powered submarines and advanced defense technologies. Beyond that, there's the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance and the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or the Quad. These partnerships give Australia strategic influence, intelligence access, military training opportunities, and deterrence power. But there's a flip side. They also reinforce Australia's dependency. For decades, Australian defense policy has operated under the assumption that if a big crisis emerges, the United States will be there to back them up. That assumption, however, isn't guaranteed, especially as U.S. foreign policy becomes more inward-looking and stretched thin.
Exactly. It's not, I feel like it was guaranteed before, but now definitely not a guarantee. Definitely not a guarantee.
Across multiple global hotspots. Relying too heavily on a friend across the Pacific without ensuring self-reliance could leave Australia in a vulnerable position. Now let's talk about the regional elephant, or should we say dragon, in the room, China. The relationship between Australia and China has deteriorated significantly in recent years. Once close trade partners, the two countries are now locked in an ongoing geopolitical tug-of-war. China's increasing assertiveness in the South China Sea, growing influence in the South Pacific, and aggressive military posturing have set off alarm bells in Canberra. Add to that Beijing's efforts to sway political systems, economic leverage over Australian exports, and cyber espionage campaigns, and it's no wonder Australia is trying to recalibrate its defense posture. In response, Australia has stepped up its defense budget, invested in more long-range strike capabilities, and solidified regional partnerships. However, China's military is orders of magnitude larger and more capable. In a head-to-head confrontation,
it was Australia versus China. China just has so much more money, so much more resources, so much more manpower. I think Australia is placed geographically in a very strategic spot. But when you look at the military numbers, it does depend a lot heavily on the U.S. Defense as well as the UK. But yeah, for China to get to Australia, I mean, they kind of shooting some warnings now. Like with the Air Force, they did them flares that could have caused a collision in the air. Then you got the Chinese warships around circling Australia, doing live fire without warning Australia beforehand, and so it looks like they're testing Australia. But in order for them to get a lot of their military to Australia, it'd be very tough for them.
Australia would be dramatically outgunned without immediate and sustained Allied support. And with China making inroads into Pacific Island nations, traditionally seen as Australia's sphere of influence, the strategic depth Canberra once enjoyed is eroding fast. At home, the ADF faces its own share of challenges. Recruitment has become increasingly difficult in recent years. Australia's relatively small population base makes attracting new service members tricky, especially when competing against the private sector's better salaries and work-life balance. Younger Australians, stereotyped as beach-loving, chilled-out, avocado-on-toast connoisseurs, aren't exactly lining up for boot camp. There's a disconnect between the national identity and the demands of military service, which makes filling roles even harder. Furthermore, the lifestyle of military service, long deployments, harsh environments, and potential combat risks doesn't always appeal in a country that values laid-back living and has enjoyed relative peace for decades. There's also an identity crisis brewing. What kind of military power does Australia actually want to be? A regional stabilizer focused on peacekeeping and humanitarian efforts, a loyal lieutenant to U.S. strategic interests, or a self-sufficient sovereign force capable of projecting power independently?
I would think that third would be the one. I mean, I feel like every country would want, right? Would be that third one. But I don't know if Australia has the numbers, the money, or the resources to be that third one.
Right now, the ADF is trying to balance all three roles, often without enough resources or clarity. While defense spending has surpassed 2% of GDP, a significant benchmark, money alone won't solve structural inefficiencies. So, the big question, can Australia become a military powerhouse? Absolutely,
In due
at
time,
least on a regional scale.
yeah.
The country has everything it needs: a strong economy, access to cutting edge Western technology, highly trained personnel, and a vital strategic location. For now, Australia remains a country with one of the deadliest animal kingdoms on Earth, a great track record in international peacekeeping, and a solid foundation for military growth. But until the ADF can address its recruitment woes, dependency issues, and modernization delays, it's unlikely to strike fear into the hearts of its adversaries.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, they get bitten by a funnel web spider first.
Facts. You don't want to deal with that Australian wildlife. You don't want smoke with that Australian wildlife. That's all we got. If you guys enjoyed, please don't forget to subscribe. Give a video a thumbs up. Also, if you like support the channel by becoming a member, all you gotta do is hit that join button to receive your exclusive benefits.